Good evening. I'm Harry Fisher, the chair of the BET, and I'm hereby calling the regular meeting of the Board of Estimate and Taxation to order on Monday, April 15th at 6:30. Would you all please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you. And our second order of business is the assessor's report. And I welcome Lauren Elliott, our assessor.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and fellow members of the BET. Ooh. Oh. Better? Okay. I'd like to present the assessor's report for April 2024. Actually, don't get anywhere near it. Yeah, see, that's when it. Better? That's the one. It's number 8. 8. Okay, I'd like to present the assessor's report for April 2024. First of all, the Board of Assessment Appeals met in March. There were 78 real estate appeals and 8 personal property appeals. The total reduction to the taxable grand list was $30,864,480. I also have our new grand list totals in part of my report, so you shall see all the differences there. The assessor's office sent out their notices of change for the Board of Assessment Appeals this year. We dated those and we sent them out on March 11th, which means any tax appeals have to be filed within 2 months, so that's May 11th to Superior Court. So any taxpayer who wants to continue to appeal their assessment needs to file by May 11th. To date, we have no additional tax appeals filed. They have until May 11th. Okay. In February and March, we had a total of 12 tax appeals withdrawn. There were 3 residential and 9 commercials, both withdrawn with no tax loss to the town of Greenwich. We settled 5 tax appeals, 2 residentials, which had a tax loss of $62,321, and then 3 commercial appeals we settled for a tax loss of $63,750. Okay. Currently, we are accepting applications for the senior tax relief. All seniors who were on the program before, we automatically send them a new application. We will be sending out to any person who has not any prior applicant who's received the benefit. We will send them out a certified letter by the end of the month if they have not come in and applied. The deadline for that application is May 15th. Lastly, we had we created the RFP for the 2025 revaluation. We only got 2 bids this year, one from J.F. Ryan and one from Municipal Valuation Services. I will be meeting with both these vendors, with both these companies on April 24th, and we'll go from there as far as which portion, if at all, how we present or how we move forward with the 2025 revaluation. Does anybody have any questions for me this evening?
Any questions, Ms. Moriarty?
Just those 2 firm names weren't familiar to me. Have we worked with either of those 2 respondents before?
Yes, J.F. Ryan did the commercial. They've done our commercial in the 2015 and the 2021 revaluation. Tyler Technologies is the company that did the residential portion. I do know that the woman who did residential modeling is no longer with Tyler. So we may be working with her under J.F. Ryan's company. She may be working for him. So we'll figure all that out as we move forward after April 24th.
Ms. Targett?
So that's disappointing, Ms. Elliott, that Tyler, which is a major firm that owns Munis also, didn't bid this time. I just wanted to point out that the while Mr. Raymer is no longer on this BET, I think he would be very pleased with your graph under the residential median average ratios. It's showing that the
It's starting to smile.
sales
Yes.
are, it's more than smiling. I think it's going straight up at 35% greater than the current valuations of the individual properties. The sales are. Can I ask another question? So I would like to ask a question about your, the appeals, I guess it is, the BAA appeals on page 3. I see that one exempt parcel was reduced by $27.2 million.
Yes.
Can you give us a little color on that, please? That's a lot of reduction.
That was on an exempt property. It was the property at 270 Lake Avenue. That was what used to be Carmel Academy and the Japanese school. The Board of Assessment Appeals reduced it. I don't know the rationale for why they did it. I believe somebody from Brunswick School obviously came before the Board of Assessment Appeals. There was a transfer of $18 million on that property, but it was an exempt organization, so we didn't really seem to think that $18 million reflected fair market value. However, I don't have any authority over the Board of Assessment Appeals, so unfortunately, there's not much we can do about it.
But that's, over 16 acres of land in prime residential area.
Yep.
The area is zoned
Yep.
residential.
I had
So-
over $60 million on it, and they reduced it to 25.
So that's most unusual. And then often the Board of Appeals doesn't hear commercial properties, but they chose to hear this one.
Yes, you have a new chairman, Mr. Jeff Reardon.
Thank you. Thank you. I see if I have one more question. I think
Right, and there's another residential property that was substantially reduced, we were talking about before the meeting. And the rhyme and reason on this escapes me and maybe you as well, both with regard to the one that Ms. Tarkington is citing as well as to the one that I'm referencing. And so the question really, these are material reductions, they have an impact. And the question is, if we have to expect more of that kind of thing, what would that,
Well, I do estimate, when I estimate your reduction for the Board of Assessment Appeals, I mean, the whole idea of the Board of Assessment Appeals is not to have me influence them in any way. It's supposed to be a distinct board that hears appeals that, that I've basically aggrieved the taxpayer. I don't know how, you need to have, when you have a Board of Assessment Appeals, though, they need to know, or they should have an understanding of the property, and if not, they should defer it to the Superior Court, so then and have them go to court. In the past, we've had, they have done that. This year, they made some substantial reductions, and
Ms. Tarkington?
I have no authority over them.
Sorry, thought you were done.
Ms. Elliott, can you just give us a little more color on that property? Because this other property was kind of blatant because there was only one property on here. But either probably better from you, but Mr. Weisbrod or you could just tell us what the property is or what raised his attention or how the attention got raised?
I believe it was the Seven Bridges property in the backcountry. We litigated that property a long time ago, when I first arrived here in 2012. Seven Bridges actually asked for tax exemption, and it was not granted. And we actually litigated the values in 2012. They then brought an appeal again on the 2023 grand list. The Board of Assessment Appeals did not exempt the property, but they did reduce their value substantially. And I don't know why.
I mean, I think we should take it offline.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
Well, I mean, the question is, they would not be, I assume, not be able to reverse the tax exemption thing because it was litigated and adjudicated.
right.
So they have no jurisdiction, I would imagine, over that.
Well, they shouldn't, yes. Unless something has changed, substantially has changed in the use, which has not, or ownership of that property, and it hasn't since 2012. They didn't change that. It's still a taxable property. Unfortunately, what they did instead was just reduce the value.
Right, and then the question is, to what extent, is there any oversight over the,
They are elected officials.
yeah, I know. And so,
And the whole idea is for them to act, and I'm supposed to be, they're supposed to be in an impartial board, and I'm not supposed to have any authority over them.
no, I understand, it's certainly not you can't, we all
Yeah.
understand that. The question is what oversight, if any, exists there, and there may not be any oversight, I don't know, but these are, interesting decisions.
Right, I think you've raised a good point. Thank you. Do you have a question?
Yeah, sorry.
Oh,
Go ahead, though.
No, I was just going to move that we accept the report,
Oh,
but
no.
any more questions?
I'm just wondering, the last time on the RFP for the reval, how many respondents did we get, do you know?
3,
And one of those was Tyler.
right, yeah. We
Were
lost,
the,
yes.
were the 2 that we got this time the same as last year?
Yep. There's only a handful
That's what I was
of
thinking.
certified revaluation companies in the state of Connecticut that have that will come down here and
Right.
that have the personnel in which to do the, valuations for the town of Greenwich, to have
Okay.
the expertise.
Thanks. Ms. Target?
So I move that we accept the assessor's report?
Moved by Tarkington, seconded by Weisbrod. Any objection to unanimous consent? Seeing none, we adopt that 12-0-0. Thank you. Our next order of business is requests for budget appropriations, which are all routine. So if Ms. Fasiliotis would read the items, please.
Yes, routine applications, RV3, Registrar of Voters, $74,000, approval to use election excellence grant. HS1, Human Services, $46,299, approval to use Youth Services Salary Supplies Youth Services Bureau grant. PD4, Police, $10,000, approval to use Survey 911 fund. PD5, Police, $16,000, approval to use Port Security Grant 2023.
So I
The
move these
report of
items.
the Budget Committee, Ms.
Oh,
Tarkington.
this routine items,
oh,
these
we
were,
need to
all- yeah, I just
second.
was going to second the
Okay, sorry.
motion for
Yes.
Ms. Vassilotis.
Yes. Motion by Ms. Vasiliotis, seconded by Ms. Tarkington. Now, if I could have the Budget Committee report, please.
Normally, we wouldn't give a report on routine, but all these items came before the Budget Committee. They are all grants and approvals to use, and all of these transactions were approved unanimously by the Budget Committee members.
Thank you.
Do you want any more details than that, or is that sufficient?
Does anybody have any questions? Seeing none. Any objection to adopting by unanimous consent? Seeing none, these are approved 12-0-0. Thank you. We'll now move to item number 4, the Comptroller's report, please.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, BET members. Comptroller's report. I'm glad to announce, which you already know, that the June 30th, 2023 audit, the annual comprehensive financial report, the single audit and managed report have all been finalized, and they've been presented to the audit committee a week ago. They're accepted by the audit committee, and they're before you for final acceptance. And we are filed with the Office of Policy and Management, the GFOA, the Government Finance Officers Association. I sent copies to Moody's and S&P. So we're done. And we get, this time we get a break. Last year we were approving them in July, so we're gonna take a break for 2 or 3 months before we start up for June 30th of the 24 audit. One more, don't forget, Samantha sent you all a deadline. She imposed a deadline for the annual report. We're cutting it off this Friday, April 19th. I think Friday's the 19th. And just send your final comments to Samantha, and then for May, we'll approve the annual report. I will stop there and entertain any questions.
Any questions? Yeah, Mr. Kalb?
Can we get, is it possible to get electronic, or online copies of the annual report so that if we want to make comments, we can make them to an online version instead of having to handwrite them and hand them in, and then they got to be transferred?
Okay,
We've already got it.
I think you should have that. Sent
I,
out earlier?
when you
I
say
didn't-
online, you just mean a Word document, correct?
yeah,
I
electronic version.
I have a Google Drive that I've been sharing with Leslie Moriarty, so I can certainly make that available.
Great, so, yeah, so should we all have access to that one
That's
document?
fine, yeah.
Okay, great, that would be great, thank you.
Okay. Anything else on the controller's report? All right, if you give the treasurer's, I'm sorry, Ms.
So I
Tarkington.
move that we accept the controller's report?
Oh. Seconded by Mr. Selps, moved by Mr. Tarkington. Any objection to unanimous consent? Seeing none, it's 12:00 to accept the controller's report.
Okay.
The treasurer's report, please.
If I could just make a quick announcement, I apologize, Matt, I should have talked to you offline. I handed out, we got 11 envelopes from the Greenwich High School. I don't know what's in the envelopes, but you didn't get one. So if Elliot,
It's, yeah, it's,
I apologize, we couldn't find, they came through the mail. They
Yeah.
came through the mail, so
It
I
was
don't know
a-
if they're.
it was an invitation to commencement at the
Were they-
high school,
That's what they were, invitations?
Yeah, which
Well,
we
I'm glad I said something, you might want to go.
which we got by email last year, not by posted letter, so
Yeah, and they-
I'm a little surprised.
So,
Anyway, treasurer's
sorry for that
report.
interruption. The treasurer's report is, it's all good news. If you looked at the bottom of the page, page 2 of the treasurer's report, the appreciation plus the OPEB is almost $16 million. So we're having a very good year with the interest earnings and the OPEB performance. Other than that, there's no highlights that I can bring up, but I'll entertain any questions.
Any questions? Yes, Ms. Tarkington.
I'll move that we accept the treasurer's report.
Moved by Tarkington, seconded by Moriarty. Any objection to unanimous consent? Seeing none, it's adopted, accepted, 12:00. Thank you. I didn't hear of any standing committees that want to report, but if anybody has a report, I did mark down to hear from Lucia just briefly of something we'll have coming up next month on CDBG. She's been very diligent on that.
Yes, I attended the RTM CDBG meeting that was held last week, April 9th. The committee makes recommendations that will be forwarded to the first selectman and later the full BET and the RTM for approval. The RTM committee has $596,488 that it has received from the Federal Housing and Urban Development. This is an annual process. Many years ago, I sat on this committee. The allocation is divided into about 20% services, 80% capital. There's $121,161,000 in services that had 23 organizations apply for those funds. The minimum investment by the RTM CDBG committee is $5,000 per organization. The housing had 475,327, and there were 14 organizations requesting funds. And after a 3-hour discussion, the CDBG committee voted unanimously for the distribution, which there is a spreadsheet that describes this, and it has been forwarded to the first selectman for his review and decision on the allocation. And after the BET will receive it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Seeing none, I'll move to item 8. I had nothing marked, but I'm going to report on CMS because there's been some interesting developments there. As I think everybody knows, there was dissatisfaction with Construction Services Group, CSG, as the owner's rep, really driven by the fact that they've been unable to hire a project manager for many months. And we really, have not been getting the full service level that we contracted for. I guess it was February, it was negotiated with Jim Giuliano, the head of CSG, that he would continue to search for a project manager, but that we would put out an RFP, which was done. There were 4 respondents to the RFP. I've got a pile of those sitting next to my desk at home. And none of them were any local firm that I know we had hoped would respond. But there was a candidate for the project manager spot, but he declined the offer. We were allowed to speak to that person, and he was favorably received by the committee, but then he declined the offer. So we are going to be interviewing the other 4 owners rep firms this week. And I'm guessing the committee will proceed to change CSG out for another firm. We still deal with the rock outcropping. The tree warden is dead set on keeping the trees on top of the rock. And the chief of police has pointed it out as a major safety issue. We're having an executive session to talk about safety in the morning. Those are the major things. Does anybody else have any questions for me on CMS? Seeing none. We have no old business. New business is to accept the June 30th, 2023 Annual Comprehensive Financial Report, ACFR, and state and federal single audits. May I have a motion to accept, please?
So moved.
Tarkenton moves. Seconded by Mr. Selps. Do you have any further comments, Pete?
I just wanted to tell everybody that you can go to if you know how to go to the website, if not, ask through email. The audit and the single, all the 3 audits, the single audits and the ACFR are all going to be, they are on the website in the finance section. If you don't know how to get there, just send an email to me or Samantha, and we'll guide you to that. And we also did order 25 hard copies. They will not be available for another week or 2. If you want a copy, send me an email, and I'll set it aside, and I'll give it to you the next time I see you at one of the meetings. That's
Okay. Could I have a report from the audit committee of what transpired at last week's meeting and what action was taken?
No actions were taken. We didn't vote on anything. We were short of, Ms. Lucia was not there. And we are, Peter, what did we end up doing?
Oh, no, you voted on what we just, the ACFR.
Oh, I'm thinking of the other audit.
Accept the ACFR in the single audit. We deferred action on the payroll audit. I gave a matrix. Matt Deschamps is going to update the matrix. I have a statement of work for the next phase of internal audits. We did not have one more batch. Mr. Alfano wanted to add an audit, so we didn't vote on it. So when David gives me an update to an audit he may want, or anybody wants to pull an audit or move them around, it'll come to the audit committee in May, and then it'll come to the BET in May for funding. And again, it's phase 4 of the internal audit outsource program.
Thank you.
Okay.
But
Any questions or comments further? Seeing none. Any objection to accepting the June 30th Annual Comprehensive Financial Report and state and federal single audits? Seeing none, that's adopted 12-0-0. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, my
Yes, sir.
apologies. I missed the motion in the second. Who was the motion in the second?
Selps.
I was the motion.
and self-seconded.
I was the motion, Stephen.
Got it. Thank you.
Yep, of course. Next up is approval of the meeting minutes of our regular meeting on March 7th. May I have a motion, please?
Were they in the package, or have we seen them?
don't think they were in the
They were
I don't
not in the
think we've-
package?
No.
They were put on the website separately, so if you had checked the website, they were there. They're nothing, they're good. They're very simple, but I'm not sure if you've seen them, whether you want to pass.
I think we, since it was not in our packet, only posted on the website, we'll defer action on that to our May meeting. Brings me to the chair report, and I was reminded recently, and I think we all need to pay attention to this in our committees, that rules require, and state law, I believe, requires that minutes be posted 7 days after a meeting, whether approved or not. So I would just encourage everybody, committee chairs and secretaries and all of that, that we should endeavor to comply with that requirement, which we just learned and we complied with. Well, maybe we didn't on the last minutes, but if you would, take note of that and make sure Samantha's aware also. Yes.
Okay, what Roland does is he notes the actions and he posts the actions the next day. So
Right.
I'm not an expert on FOIA, but I think we're in compliance with,
We are, as long as we
Yeah.
post the vote.
yeah, because
All
some
right,
of
the
these
minutes are
minutes
not
take
required
forever
then?
to get finalized.
Minutes will be finalized, but yes, it's the actions of the board has to be posted, and then the minutes should be posted as quickly as possible.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Joe Pellegrino's term as chair of the OPEB board is up on June 30th, and he's advised me that he's not going to stand to be renominated for that. So we have a vacancy on the chair. Maybe that could be, I know the committee, at least the investment advisory committee meets on Thursday. Maybe we could have a short discussion, and Nisha, I've got some ideas to talk about with you at some point as to, but it's the board appointment, but the input of the investment advisory committee would be appreciated. And that's all I have to say. Anybody else got anything to come before us? Seeing none, at 6:57, I'll take a motion to adjourn. Mr. Selfs moves.
Seconded.
Mr. Kalb is seconding. All in favor? Aye. Good. Thank you all.